you're watching the live video, you see the big man on campus, Jeff Nadu from Barstool Sports. Jeff is brought to you by PropSwap, America's sports betting marketplace. Sell your sports bet and take your profit. Find out how at PropSwap.com or download the PropSwap app today. I got that future ticket I'm going to put on there. I just need Kevin Durant to get out of the damn COVID problems so that he can get in that MVP race. I got him at plus 1,200 before the season. He's like plus 750 right now, and we'll talk a little betting, the lines, some college basketball. This is a lousy card today, by the way. Let's bring in the big man on campus. Check out the Big Man on Basketball podcast. He was firing some winners over the weekend. What's up, man?
Hey, Mike. How are you? Good to talk to you.
All is good, man. You had a hot weekend. You had a nice night last night. And this is not a great card today, though. Would you agree?
I would agree. I think it's probably the worst of the season I've seen. But, Mike, that doesn't mean you can't win. I think there are some bettable spots. But from the way I look at the card, no, it's not a particularly strong one, no.
All right. So let's take a look at, before we look at a couple of games tonight, because I know there are some teams that you typically like to kind of look at. So we'll look at that, some NBA stuff as well. But right now, you guys do a thing on the podcast, teams that you like to back and fade. So at this stage of the season, where we're at, as we turn the calendar into mid-February now, we're starting to get on that March to March madness. What are some teams that you are backing at this point?
Yeah, a lot of it has to do with just, when I bet on stuff, long term, I'm betting a lot of the same teams. And whenever you follow what I'm doing, you're going to see that. A team like that, probably no one in your listening audience has ever heard of until now, but they've been cashing left and right for me is Bellarmine. They're a team out of the Atlantic Sun. They're a new team to Division I this season. 10-4 against the spread. They have been covering left and right. I think they've covered every game over their last 8. I think they're 7-1 over the last 8. They're just a cover machine. And, just real quick about them, they run this like really hopped up Princeton offense, and it's just tons of ball movement and just really crisp, fun offense. And a lot of the teams in this conference just really can't keep up with it. They're one of the top 30 offenses, I think, in America. They've done a really great job this season, and they've just been covering left and right because a lot of the time, as I said, they're just playing these teams that just aren't on their level, really. They've already played the toughest team in this conference, so I think it's going to be a team that I'm going to continue to back. I've backed Hofstra a lot recently. Hofstra is a team that was the number 1 team in the country last year against the spread, and they've been quite good this year too. They have a 4-guard lineup. They kind of center it around one big, and they just outscore you. That's kind of their goal. And they're always pretty well priced as far as in the markets. You don't have to lay tons of points. I want to tell the listeners, I wouldn't go and lay 7 with Hofstra, but if you're getting them in that 3 or less category, I'm looking for them because they're a great foul shooting team. They really generally close games out. And they've been money of late as well.
That's good stuff on the free throw stuff. That's definitely a stat to keep an eye on when you're betting teams. Missing free throws down the stretch kills lines sometimes. What about a team that you are off, a team that you're fading?
Wow.
Or 2, or 3.
No, I there are many. A lot of the time, I think if you just side with bad teams, generally, you're going to be kind of in the swing of things there. A team I've been fading, all year I've been fading Mississippi Valley State University, who I think is the worst team I've ever seen at this level. They actually got a win last night, Mike, as 19-point underdogs. They actually won the game. But, Northern Iowa is a team that's kind of been on my radar all season. They're usually a mid-major that's pretty good. People kind of like them in the Missouri Valley Conference. But they lost their best player, A.J. Green, early in the season. They really haven't been the same ever since. They are just so dependent, were so dependent on him. And you look at since then, they've just really never had any footing. They have no consistency. They don't really do anything well. And this year, Mike, they don't have the defense that they've always had that they can fall back on. They don't really do anything of note. They're not good. And they're 3-12, I believe, against the number. They've just been a terrible bet. They've been a team worth fading. I would also say, just as kind of in general, I'm kind of figuring out how to do certain things this year. And I'm noticing that when you have a total this year, that's in the high 150s, so 157, 158, even like 160. You're seeing a lot of those totals. I'm noticing, Mike, that a lot of them aren't going over. And what they're doing on these games are they're finding these teams that people like to bet over the number. They're pricing the numbers way better, which is what they always do. But I'm starting to notice that there's been a lot of value in these like kind of low 140 games where maybe you don't have the fastest teams in the world, but you have teams that are really efficient and the numbers are just too low. Maybe a team like a Hofstra or like a Drexel, who actually, Mike, are both very good offensive teams because they're efficient. They take a lot of shots close to the basket. The more shots you have close to the basket, the higher percentage you have of them are going to go in. I don't want a ton of teams that bomb from three. I want high percentage, jump to the big, dunks, layups, high percentage opportunities. And teams like that do it, and they're actually priced pretty well.
All right, let's get a couple college thoughts from Jeff Nadu from Barstool Sports. He's the host of Big Man on Basketball. The new podcast drops tomorrow morning at 9 a.m., and there'll be a lot better card later on in the week. This is not one great, but there's a couple teams that I know you like. St. Bonaventure, 14-point favorite. It opened down to 12.5 on FanDuel, 13.5 BetMGM, 13 on DraftKings. So it's all over the place up against LaSalle.
Yeah, LaSalle, Mike, has looked good at times, and then they look really bad. Like they beat Richmond, they beat St. Louis, and then they go out and lose to Fordham, who, is the worst team in the conference. So I really don't know what to say of LaSalle. I still think, this is a pretty bad team, frankly. Bonaventure has, blow-up potential, but this is a lot of points. I'm not running to it to bet it. It won't be on my card.
All right, big one tonight, West Virginia, Texas Tech. That's another one. West Virginia's on the road. They struggle in the Big 12 road games. It opened at 5. It's 6.5 FanDuel, 6.5 BetMGM, 6 at DraftKings.
Yeah, I would definitely lean with your squad, Mike. The Mountaineers here, they have shot the ball really well this season, which is kind of random for them. Generally, they're a pretty poor offense. They have been for the most part this year, but they've been able to do what they do on the offensive glass. They've been able to make shots. And against Texas Tech, if you can make three-point shots, you're going to be in a game against them. This is a team that kind of pack it in. They wall the paint off. They don't want you to get into the paint, but they'll give you the three-point shot. That could be a tough tonic against West Virginia, who has made those shots this year. This game kind of screams probably high 60s, and in that kind of game, I'll gladly take 5.5 points. I think West Virginia is pretty live. Maybe to even win this game. This doesn't seem like it should be 5.5. I would have put it more at like 2.5 because there's no real home court advantage this year. I think it's a closer game than that. I think West Virginia is a live dog. I think they can win. They'll make threes.
Which is surprising because I know you like Texas Tech at the start of the year big time.
Yeah, I do like Texas Tech. I like both these teams, to be really honest with you. I obviously have soured a bit on West Virginia just because they lost Shibwe, who I thought him and Culver down low were just terrific, that duo. And I like Texas Tech. I'm a big Chris Beard fan. I think he's one of the best coaches in the country. And I think long-term, these teams could both be really interesting. But in kind of a battle against each other, I just think it's too many points. If Texas Tech were 5.5-point dogs, I'd probably take them here.
All right, one game based on our conversation we just had on the over numbers. You said like 157 to 140. Tonight you got Auburn, Vanderbilt. That opened 158.5. It's down to 156.5, but still a pretty big over-under number there for Vandy and Auburn.
Yeah, and you're learning quickly that you need a lot of things to go right to get to 160. A lot of people will learn that quickly. And, that was sharp money taking the 158 and saying, we're going to go under. We're going to just bank that there's a slow start to this game. All you need, Mike, is at the 12-minute mark for this to be, 12, 8 or something. And you're not really on for you to hit 160, Mike, you need at the 10-minute mark for it to be at 40-ish. And obviously you need, you want 75 to 80 in the first half because you generally are going to get a higher scoring second half. But, one thing about this game that I will have pause on an under is, both these teams are going to run with each other. I saw Auburn over the weekend. I bet against them over the weekend because they played a team in Mississippi who will not run with them. They will not oblige them. They will make them score in a half court. And, against a team like that, I just don't have any interest. And if Auburn, if they get to the tournament, face a team like that, they will lose in the first round. Vandy's not going to do that. Vandy will kind of run with them. They'll speed it up. And they have some guards that can kind of, I think, play with them. So that's not an over-under I'm real keen in, but I do think it's a little high. I'm starting to kind of see through some of these totals. But on the other hand, you also see in the SEC that if you get two teams that generally run, you're generally looking down the barrel of like an 84-81 type of game. So I don't know. This is a game where I'm going to kind of avoid.
All right. Speaking of high over-unders, let's go to the association, because anytime the Nets are on the docket, I'm interested in your thoughts there. 232.5 it opened, and that thing has dropped down to 229. So people seem like they're either listening to Big Man on Basketball and getting these clues, because that thing is going down. But 232 Nets Pistons.
Yeah, this seems like
and by the way, Jeff, that opened at 9.5. It dropped down to 6.5.
Yeah, and when you look at this, this is interesting because the Pistons are usually in this predicament every night where they're kind of like a 6.5 to 10-point dog. And we see, 70% of the bets are on the Nets, yet the line has come down considerably, which not great. It wouldn't surprise me if someone's going to be out tonight for the Nets. I know Durant, he's been in and out, but as far as the total, I don't have much on that. I think people are just kind of thinking the way you are and just saying, well, might be too high for the Pistons, but maybe not enough for the Nets. The Nets might score a lot here, but it's a weird game. There's a lot of weird things that I kind of go against that aren't really making sense to me here. One game that I do like, and I'm noticing, the Knicks are, as we know, they are really, really bad, Mike, offensively. I don't think I'm telling anyone anything they don't know. This game got to 212 on Sunday. Even after, a 71-point second quarter, and it still only got to 212. I'm willing to think we don't see any 70-point quarters in this game. I'm going to lean under. I think, when you tee these two teams, the under makes a lot of sense here, and I think that's the right side. You're just not going to see these teams up and down. And, look, again, outside of like multiple 65, 70-point quarters. Again, to have a 70-point quarter and it still only get to 212, that's a rough that's wild, frankly. It should have at least got to 220 with one 70-point quarter. So I'm going to lean under in this kind of, back-to-back-ish type game here. I think this is probably first to 105 wins.
Yeah, that's Knicks Heat tonight. It's over under 209. In FanDuel, 208.5 DraftKings. So there you go for that. And real quick, before we let you roll, we got Sixers out west. This Kings team has been playing some good hoops. Fox has been on fire. You got Fox scoring 30 tonight. You got Embiid scoring 30 tonight. Over under 230, 5.5. Sixers are a 5.5-point favorite on the road tonight at Sacramento.
Yeah, I've been on record as saying I think this Kings team could be one of the worst defenses I've ever seen at the NBA level. They're really, really bad. And when you look at like their defensive efficiency numbers, they are significantly worse, Mike, than anyone else. Like it's not even close. The Sixers really need to score a lot of points tonight. There's really no excuse. It doesn't matter who's playing. This defense sucks. But you're right. This is a team in the Sixers that, occasionally will play down to their opponents, the NBA. That's what the NBA players do occasionally. But, yeah, I would look maybe towards any time that the Kings play, like some sort of team total over. You look at the line in this game, 5 is, I think, a little testy. But I would look towards maybe over 117.5. The Sixers have been good offensively this year. We know Embiid's have been a matchup nightmare. Not really sure if Sacramento has anyone that will stop Embiid. I will give the Sixers credit. The offense has been pretty solid for the most part this season and very good. So I would lean over. Anytime the Kings play, I'm betting against them defensively because they are just disturbingly bad. I will say, Mike, back to college real quick. There is one game that I probably am going to play tonight. I like Kentucky. I think they take care of business tonight. Arkansas is a team that have struggled against top 50 teams. You look at against top 50 teams this year, 0-5 straight up. I've said before, I think Eric Musselman, the coach at Arkansas, is one of the most overrated coaches in the country. He is a rah-rah guy, but he does very little on the court to win you games. I think this is a Kentucky team that's long. I think they're athletic. I don't think they run with Arkansas. And I've noticed this year, Arkansas can get really sliced and diced offensively. They have to have a game plan tonight, Kentucky. They can't screw around with the ball for 20 seconds and then decide, oh, we got to shoot. We only have 10 seconds left. If we get a good, solid effort tonight, I think they can beat Arkansas. And I think the public gambler knows that Kentucky's not good, and they're going to definitely side with Arkansas. Line just went the other way, though. Sharps are on Kentucky. I'll be with them here.
All right, big man on campus, Jeff Nadu's back on Saturday morning. We'll go over the weekend card, and you can check out Big Man on Basketball tomorrow, 9 o'clock, wherever you get your podcast. Jeff, thank you, pal.
Always good talking to you guys. Thanks, Mike.
Yeah, man. And he, like all guests, appear via the Boardwalk Honda hotline.